Bright Duty. Every student matters.
So with that, we have come to the end of the text. Now here we have a series of questions which we will look at together. We'll try to answer them, and through that exercise, we'll also quickly revise what we have just learned about the revolt of 1857. Okay. So the first set of questions, I have not named the set of questions, but the first set of questions is basically answer in one word, a very, very short answer type question. Okay. So the first question asks, give the lines written by Subhadra Kumari Chauhan about Rani Jhansi. So Subhadra Kumari Chauhan wrote खूब लड़ी मर्दानी वो तो झांसी वाली रानी थी. So this basically means, like men, she fought. She was the Rani of Jhansi. Like men, she fought. She was the Rani of Jhansi. So this is the line written by Subhadra Kumari Chauhan about Rani Jhansi. Now let's look at the next question. The next question asks, what is mutiny? So mutiny is a rebellion by a group of people who refuse to accept a person's authority any longer and take control of power from that person. Okay, so that is mutiny. The next question, when was subsidiary alliance introduced by Wellesley in Awadh? It was in the year 1801. The next question, who represented 1857 uprising in Bihar? It was Kunwar Singh. The next question, who said 1857 uprising was the first war of Indian independence, or give the names of any two writers who interpreted the rising of 1857 as the first war of independence? So these are the two questions which you'll find in your question section. So both of them are same question. That's why I've put them together, okay? So that we answer them at once. So the names of one or two person who interpreted the uprising of 1857 as the first war of Indian independence are, number one, Veer Savarkar, and number two, Ashok Mehta. Alright. The next question. So the question asks, bell of arms is? And there are four options, so we have to pick the correct answer. Storeroom in which weapons are kept, the ornament which is worn around the arm, both of them a special type of weapons. So the correct answer is number 1, storeroom in which weapons are kept. The next question, who was the leader of revolt in Kanpur? Rani Lakshmibai, Nana Sahib, Tantia Tope, Rangaji Babu. The correct answer is Nana Sahib. The next question, which of the following escaped to Nepal after the collapse of rebellion? Was it Rangaji Babu, Babu Kunwar Singh, Nana Sahib, Birjis Kadir? The answer is Nana Sahib. The next question, Shah Mal was killed in the battle in, was it July 1857, May 1857, June 1858, end of 1858? The correct answer is July 1857. The next question, resident was the designation of a representative of the king, the governor general, the rebellions, the British monarchy. The correct answer is the governor general. Governor general had residence in all the territories that were brought or annexed or captured by the British government. Next question, name any two libraries where official records of the mutiny are available. So from what we have read in the text, we can name one as National Archives of India Library. Since it asks for two libraries, had there been named any two places where official records of the mutiny are available, then we could have just put National Archives of India. But the National Archives also has a library, so we can put National Archives of Library India. And number 2 is the British Library. Alright? The next question, give the names of any 3 important books which narrate the events of mutiny. There are many books, alright, so let's just name 3 of them. Number 1, a personal journal of the Siege of Lucknow by R.P. Anderson. Second, the campaign in India (1857-58) by G.F. Atkinson. And number 3, the Indian War of Independence (1857) by V.D. Savarkar. The next question, who was the prominent leader of the rebels at Delhi? Shah Mal. Which day The next question. Which day had been fixed for the revolt to start? "28th of March, 1857. The next question. Who led the fight for freedom at Jagdishpur? Kunwar Singh. The next question. Give the name of writer who interpreted the revolt of 1857 as Muslim organized revolt. Was James Outram. The next question. When was Delhi reoccupied by the British after the uprising of 1857? 14th September 1857. The next question. Discuss the evidence that indicates planning and coordination on the part of the rebels. So basically, we have to point out what indicates that the revolt was planned and coordinated. Okay, what shows that the rebellion of 1857 was planned and well coordinated. Okay, so the first point is the harmony and unity between Muslims and Hindus. That indicates planning and coordination. Number 2 point is the proclamation of Bahadur Shah as the Emperor of India. Okay, they could have picked anybody, but they picked Bahadur Shah as the head or the leader or the emperor of the whole of India. Okay. The third point, both Muslims and Hindus rose in unity against the British rule. All right. The next point, communication and spread of revolt in various military cantonments. Okay, so these are some of the points which indicates that the rebels were coordinated in their attack against the British government. Okay. The next question. Write a brief note on the sources of history, on the sources of the study of the history of events of 1857-58. Describe the main sources for constructing the history of rising of 1857. So these both questions are there in the question section, and both of them are asking the same thing. Okay, so we have to write down the sources, the different sources from where we get information to write the history of the uprising of 1857. Number one is the National Archives of India. Alright, now here we have the mutiny papers, the foreign department, home department, military department, home secret department. So all those departments have papers, have files, documents related to the events of 1857. Alright, the next is British Library. Now, British Library has private papers of British officials like Case, which gives us accounts of the events of 1857. It also has newspaper clippings. It also has parliamentary papers, which all have related information about the event. Okay. Number 3 is West Bengal State Archives. Okay, West Bengal State Archives also has papers related to the revolt of 1857 that took place around Bengal, including Bihar. Okay, number 4 is Punjab State Archives. Now, just like the state archives in West Bengal, the Punjab State Archives also has papers, documents related to the revolt of 1857. And fifth, archives in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh also have papers and documents related to the mutiny. So here, as you can see, I've only cited the main places from where we get the documents, the records, right? The papers related to mutiny. Now, here, because of the time crunch as well as the space crunch, I have put down the main areas or the main points. But it is your responsibility and it is your task to elaborate on each of them. Add, like for example, National Archives of India, please add the mutiny papers, the list of mutiny papers, foreign department, home department, etc. from where you get the sources. In the British Library section, you can write the papers related to K, the parliamentary papers, etc. In the similar manner, we have learned about it, so you can add little information or more information depending on the marks associated with each question on your answer. Okay. Now the next question, it asks, why did the mutinous sepoy in many places turn to erstwhile rulers to provide leadership to the revolt? Why did they turn to their rulers? Like for example, in Awadh, the Nawab of Awadh, right? In Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. So why did the sepoys or the people turn to their erstwhile rulers to provide leadership? Okay, because number one, they wanted to uproot or end the British rule. Number two, they wanted to reinstate their rulers as the leaders of the entire nation. And number three is that because They wanted unity among the Muslims and and Hindus. Alright? Moving on to the next question. Describe the role of Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi in the rising of 1857. In short, I'm just going to write Rani Bai, okay? Was the widow of Raja Gangadhar Rai. She led the revolt in Jhansi. She fought against the British bravely and drove them away. But later she was defeated by the British in a battle. But later she was defeated by the British in a battle where she died fighting in June 1858. The next question. Discuss the extent to which the religious beliefs shaped the events of 1857. So how did the religious beliefs impact or affect the events of 1857? First, it was believed that the British government was trying to convert the Indians to Christianity. Number 2, introduction of Western education, ideas, and culture. This was believed to harm the Indian religious customs and traditions of the people. Number 3, it was believed that the British wanted to destroy the ideals of Hindus and Muslims. And number 4, abolishing the social practices such as sati, were considered to be criticism of the British government. So these were all the beliefs, these were all the ideas which made the Indians feel that the British government was trying to bring certain changes, trying to introduce certain ideals which would harm their long cherished life, okay, long cherished Hindu culture, Hindu custom, and their religious sentiments, okay, and that was under threat by some of these measures taken by the British. So that shaped this kind of caused the Indians to have or develop a kind of belief, religious belief, which shaped the events of 1857. All right. The next question: briefly describe the events of the uprising of 1857 in South India. Now, the revolt spread to many parts in South India. The rebels in Maharashtra were led by Ranga Babuji Gupte. The rebels who were captured were jailed in the Andamans. Major centers of revolt in South India were, and you can name a few, like for example, Travancore, North Arcot, Salem, Tanjavur, Hyderabad, Kurnool, Guntur, Madurai, etc. Okay. The revolt in South India continued till 1859. Okay, next question. What were the measures taken to ensure unity among the rebels? Now, unity among the Indian rebels was one of the significant feature of the rebellion, of the event of 1857. So, what were the measures that ensured that unity of the rebels, unity among the rebels remained like that? Okay. So, number one was the proclamations and notifications. Notifications appealing to the people, irrespective of caste and creed. That was number one point. Number two, proclamations by Muslim rulers took into consideration the sentiments of Hindus. All right. Number three, equal participation of both the Hindus and the Muslims. Alright, so these were some of the measures which were taken to ensure that the unity among the Indian rebels were maintained. Alright. Next question. What steps did the British take to quell the uprising? What did the British do to crush the uprising? So there were various steps that were taken. First, large number of troops were dispatched. Huge number of troops were dispatched to fight against the Indian rebels. Number two, framing of laws. New laws were framed and introduced to make sure that the Indians would not rise in revolt against them, and if they did, then they would be tried, punished according to the laws. Okay. Number three, harsh punishment. harsh harsh punishment was given to the Indian rebels who were caught, captured during the revolt by the British officials and the British government. Okay. Number 4. Recapturing of Delhi. So Delhi was a seat of power. It was the place where the Mughal emperor resided. All right. So when the mutineers went and sieged Delhi, even if it was a short-lived siege, then it impacted the hold of the British government in India. All right. So by recapturing, the recapture of Delhi itself signified that the rebels were crushed. Okay. Number 5. Empowerment of the British officials. Now, in order to quell the uprising, the British government gave certain powers to the British officials, and now they could punish the captured Indian rebels. They could kill them. They could try them. Okay, who were caught involved or caught who had participated, who had participated. Who were caught being involved in the revolt or who were caught having participated in the revolt of 1857. Okay, so these were some of the steps which were taken by the British government to crush the uprising. The next question, describe the main events of the rising or the uprising of 1857 at Lucknow. The uprising in Lucknow was led by Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. The rebels killed the British troops and civilians who had taken refuge inside the residency. At last, the commander-in-chief, Campbell marched towards Lucknow, defeated the Indian rebels and captured it. In March 1858. Okay. So this is a brief description of the main event of the uprising of 1857. The next question. Write a note on Frederick Cooper's action at Ajnala. Frederick Cooper was Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar in Punjab during the revolt. He ruthlessly and indiscriminately killed Indian rebels and civilians during the uprising of 1857 in Ajnala. Alright? The next question. Why was the revolt particularly widespread in Awadh? What prompted the peasants, talukdars and zamindars to join the revolt? The revolt was widespread because, number one, Awadh was annexed after forcing it to enter into subsidiary alliance. Number two, with the capture of Awadh by the British, many native officials, traders, artisans lost their position. And jobs. Now the next part of the question. What prompted the peasants, talukdars and zamindars to join the revolt? The next part of the question. With the introduction of British revenue system, the zamindars and talukdars were removed from their position of power. They were stripped of their land holdings. The burden of revenue payment on the peasants increased. So these were the reasons which led the talukdar, zamindars, and the peasants to join the revolt. The next question, is it proper to call the uprising of 1857 as the first war of independence? So we know that some historians have called the uprising of 1857 as the first war of independence because the points to justify is number one, all the sections of the society joined the uprising. Number two, the women also participated in this uprising along with the men. Number three, the leaders of the uprising were not motivated by selfish interests. Number four, the revolt was pre-planned and organized. They ensured unity among the Muslims and Hindus to come together and fight against the British. Okay? And the fifth point is that the Indians, coming from all sections of the society, had been holding grievances and complaints against the British government for a long time, since a long time, okay? So all those grievances of the sepoys, of the traders, merchants, peasants, zamindars, all of them were brought together and addressed when they all participated and revolted against the British. The next question, what do the visual representations tell us about the revolt of 1857? How do the historians analyze these interpretations? The visual representations tell us about the varied experiences of the British during the revolt. Historians analyze these representations by studying the depictions. Okay? For example, some paintings depict British military officers as heroes of the revolt. Others depict the fear and helplessness among the Europeans. Alright? The next question. What part was played by Nana Sahib Azim Ullah Shah and Tantia Tope in the Rising of 1857? Tantia Tope first. Tantia Tope provided assistance to Rani Lakshmi Bai in the siege of Gwalior, or basically came to provide assistance to Rani Lakshmi Bai in her fight against the British. He was executed by the British on 18th April 1859. Nana Sahib, another important leader during the revolt. He led the revolt in Kanpur. Next is Azim Ullah Shah. Another important leaders who led the revolt in Kanpur. He supported and fought against the British along with Nana Sahib. Alright, now next question. What did the rebels want? To what extent did the vision of different social groups differ? What did the rebels want? The rebels wanted to uproot the British rule from India. They wanted to reinstate the order or system of governance prevalent in the pre-British 18th century. Alright, To what extent did the vision of different social groups differ? Number one, zamindars. Now, the zamindars' lands were annexed or stripped off. The zamindars were stripped of their holdings, their properties, their land. Okay, so the zamindars were angry because of that to the British, angry towards the British government. They were removed from the position of power which they enjoyed before 1857. All right, so that was the zamindar's main problem. Number two, merchants. The British government enjoyed monopoly of trade, so they traded the cash crops such as indigo, such as cotton, etc. And because they enjoyed the monopoly, this impacted the trading activities of the Indian native merchants and traders. Okay, so that also had led to the economic decline, and that angered them. All right, so that was their difference a difference in ideas which allowed them to rise against the British. Okay. Number three, the public servants, right? The public servants, the Indian public servants were angry with the British because the highest posts were given not to the British. They were given. So the public servants in India, the Indian public servants, they were furious with the British government because all the higher posts were reserved for the Europeans, and they were not given, or they were not reserved for any Indians. The Indians were never recruited for higher positions. Okay, and then the lower ranks, the lower positions were given to the Indians, but the Indians were not paid well, they were not respected, and they were exploited. So that's why the public servants were also furious towards the British government. Now, number four is the artisans, right? Artisans. Now, with the establishment of the British government, what happened? The markets in India were flooded with the British finished goods, which were cheaper, but it impacted the artisans. It impacted the weavers because now people no longer bought the weaved, hand-loomed products. Okay, they bought the cheap cotton goods, finished goods. So the cottage industries, the handlooms were all declined. They were now in decline, and hence the artisans were in a miserable state, in a very bad state, which compelled them to beg. Okay, so because of such conditions of the artisans, they were also furious towards the British. All right. So all these all these were the different visions. Okay, difference in different visions of the social groups. Okay, while one was furious towards the British government because of how their properties and land holdings were stripped of them, while the others were upset because their means of livelihood was stripped out. Okay, so all of these different problems and grievances, along with the sepoys' grievances, were brought together, and they were pulled together to the revolt, and that revolt was the rebellion of 1857. Okay. Now the next question, what do you think are major problems faced by historians in reconstructing the point of view of the rebels? Now we know this is a very interesting and very important question. Okay, we know that the viewpoints of rebels are very less or non-existent because They were illiterate. Hence, their demands grievances experiences have not been written or documented. Hence, to understand the rebels' viewpoints, we have to turn to the British accounts, where they only write from their viewpoint or perspective and not consider the viewpoint of the rebels. Alright, so this is one of the problems that historians face. The next question, what were the views of the newspaper, The Hindu Patriot, about the reaction of the common people to the rising of the 1857? So according to the paper, the mutineers or the rebels were joined by the civil population. There was not a single person without grievances against the British. There was a feeling among the people that the British government was determined to destroy the religion of the natives. Alright? The next question. Why did the people believe in the rumors? Explain. Now, people believed in the rumors because of the policies. Because of the British policies that were introduced during the first half of the 19th century. Okay, what were these policies? Number one, Westernization. Okay, so the British government introduced Western education, Western ideas, Western literature, Western culture. Now, with bringing of this Western ideas, the Indians, they believed that the Indian culture and tradition were attacked, and the British were determined to destroy the Indian culture, the long cherished culture of India. Okay. Second is social reform. Now, the British also, by introducing social reforms, they tried to get rid of some of the evils of the society, which they considered evils. Like, for example, the practice of sati, right? The ban of child remarriage. So the British government abolished these practices of sati, performing sati, and remarriage of child remarriage. Now, when this happened, the Indians felt that their traditions and cultures were constantly coming under the radar, under the criticism of the British, and the British did not respect their traditions, not respect their cultures, and they were hell bent on getting rid of them. Okay. And number 3 was efforts to convert to Christianity. Okay, the Indians believed that the British government, along with the missionaries, various missionaries across the country, they were also trying to convert Indians, Muslims and Hindus to Christianity. And so they felt that that their religion, their faith, their belief was going to be destroyed by the British government. So all these acted as a backbone to the rumors which spread, and those rumors went on to bring the people together, in unity because of the fear and panic that they expressed, okay, out of these beliefs, out of these policies that the British introduced. All right, so that led finally to the outbreak of the revolt. Now, the last question is a question for map work. Now, in this question, it asks you to show some of the main centers of the revolt. Now, if you look at the book, and also in this lesson, we looked at various places where the revolt had spread, right? Like Delhi, Lucknow, Kanpur, Jhansi, Gwalior, etc. So these are the main centers of revolt. Now, what you ought to do is go back to the chapter, because while I was teaching you, there were maps which I forgot to mention, and in those maps you could have seen, as we were learning about these various centers of revolt, you could have seen the areas with indicated on the map. So do not worry. At the end of these long chapters, we're going to look at a sole chapter dedicated to map work. So there we'll try to again refresh our memory and again relook at the centers of revolt, and that should help you in indicating the correct places or centers of revolt. All right. So with that, I would like to end the chapter. This was another long chapter, and let me briefly again summarize what this chapter was all about. So this chapter basically told us about the revolt of 1857, right? We looked at the sources from where we get enough information to study the event, all right? And we also looked at the various events of this revolt, which started in 1857, went on till 1858. In some of the places like South India, it went on to 1859, right? We looked at the main centers of revolt like Lucknow, Delhi, Kanpur, etc. And we also looked at the leaders of these areas, right? And then we saw we learned about the impact of the rebellion, we learned about the causes of the rebellion, we learned about the role played by rumors and prophecies in the outbreak of the revolt. We also understood how the event of 1857 has been interpreted differently by different groups of people. Some historians are of the opinion that it should be considered as the Sepoy mutiny. All right, the sepoys were the main cause of the outbreak. It was the sepoys who led the mutiny, and the others did not take as active part as criticized by the others. Okay, and there is another group of historians and scholars who consider the event of 1857 as the first war of independence, and they give several causes as to how we can justify that point. And then there are others who consider it as a Muslim organized revolt, others who have different opinions. So basically, we learned about various aspects which constitute this significant event in Indian history, which is the revolt of 1857. And the most important takeaway from this chapter should be that although this was a failure, but the revolt of 1857, the uprising of 1857, sowed the seeds of nationalism, of feelings of nationalism, which went on to shape the India's freedom struggle and ultimately resulted in the independence of India in 1947. Okay, so with that, I end this chapter, and I hope you had a nice time learning with me. And with that, I end here. Take care. Bye.